So, when I was talking about security, they were talking about the borders. When we were talking about the border, they were talking about securities and refugees and etc. I know the deepness of the problem. You know perfectly. But I believe, and this is my first very strong point, security must be better ensured who is close to a Palestinian state. This is obvious. Disarm with people watching. I don't know exactly the nationality of the soldier we were able, the Palestinian and the Israeli, to accept, etc., etc. But to ensure the security, to reinforce the security of Israel, Palestinian state is not an obstacle. On the contrary, this is certainly one of the conditions of security. Second point. When we are talking about Palestinian state, sometimes the reactions of our Israeli friend is to talk like if we were and certainly the people in favor, not in favor, more than in favor, but considering the existence of Israel like a necessity of their own existence. We are sometimes considering, in the eyes of our counterpart, like if we were enemies. This is not being enemy of Israel to be in favor of a Palestinian state. Look at our friends. Look the way they are talking to each other. Do the daily life. The way they are expressing their opinion on both sides of this impossible wall. And mainly now, because of two other points, Arab Spring and this agreement, or so-called agreement, or the way to an agreement in between Hamas and PLO. Another time, there is a little discrepancy. This is not a real difference in between the European attitude facing what happened in Tunisia or what happened in Egypt and our Israeli friend. I know that this is dangerous. Everything is dangerous. Every movement, political movement, revolution, certainly. Is it a revolution? Was it a revolution in both countries? I don't know the word. But the people who were demonstrating in the streets of Tunis and all over in Tunisia, did they attack Israel? Never. Did they attack, the American policy? Never. They were claiming, yelling in the street for democracy. And not only for democracy, but for exactly the values of European basic, let's say, contribution, and more than contribution, convictions. Democracy, rule of law, the status of the women, free election. Are they enemies? They are not. So we, but you, have to take this movement, Arabian Spring, this is a very beautiful word, as an opportunity, as a good occasion to go forward with an Israeli Spring. In Egypt, it was the same thing. We were very frightened because, of course, Egypt was not, it was not the same case in Egypt than in Tunisia, and we have to consider the culture and the political involvement of all the countries one by one. This is not a magic and unique movement, certainly not. But in the case of Egypt, it was absolutely the same. The slogans in the street were in favor of democracy. They didn't attack Israel. Will it be the same in 6 months or 6 years? I don't know. But another time, we must benefit, I say we, because I consider that we have the same interest. We must take that as an opportunity to set up the piece of the puzzle, the most important piece of the puzzle, the Palestinian state. And now, going back to the road to September. The road to September means in the General Assembly, I don't know if it will be a tsunami or not, certainly not. This is not the place for the tsunami in the UN building, believe me. But well, the road to September must be considered in a better mood with what happened in between the people of Gaza and the PLO and the Palestinian Authority. I don't want to judge what happened now. I mean, the Hamas policy and the way they behave since years and years. But now, I remember that when we were on the way another time of renegotiation, one of the arguments coming from the Israeli part was, but you are not representing the whole people of Palestine. You are just a fraction. What about Gaza, etc.? Okay. This is certainly difficult to join the two cultures and the two positions and the two political backgrounds. But certainly now it might have facing, for us, not facing, but well, to play and to discuss with a unity, a government of so-called national unity, even if there is no nation for the time being. But this is very important because I believe, and you believe certainly too, this is dangerous because Hamas was, had a strong position against Israel. They never recognized. But in accepting, being together with PLO, this is a step forward on the good way. Accepting Israel, like you said, Mr. Ambassador. This is risky, certainly. But not to take this chance is much more risky. So, in the atmosphere of the Arab Spring, in considering the road to September, in having in the heart, having in mind what has been done by our friends Yossi Belin and Yasser Abed-Rabo and the others, all of them, in a collective, fantastic work in dreaming for peace in Middle East, starting by the setting up of a Palestinian state. I think that losing this opportunity will be a big fault. And surprising the world in having the beginning of the restarting of negotiation, the beginning of restarting of a negotiation. It's not too much with this government, if the government is set up in the coming days. You will avoid the most important danger you're facing, you Israeli people, my friends. Isolation. You can't remain isolated. This is the most important danger if you are not moving and forcing your government to move. I was fair enough not to answer to official question. My successor, Alain Juppé, is coming and visiting you tomorrow, so the national and official position of my country will be certainly clearly said to you and exposed to you tomorrow. But coming from a fight of 40 years beside you and beside my Palestinian friends, having in heart that you can in the same time, you must, you should in the same times talk about Israelis friends, Israelis brother, and Palestinian brother and Palestinian friends. This is not a shame. This is what has been shown for us and for you by the Z'neba initiative, and long life to her. Thank you.